What's going on, guys? Yes, it is the holiday season, but there is a ton going on. So we're just going to get right into it, starting with the $1,700 for our troops, $3,000 for people who crossed illegally. What is this administration doing? How does any of what we're seeing make any iota of sense? But think about the time. Right as the Epstein files resurface, explosive names, shocking revelations, the headlines flood our feeds, distraction after distraction. And while we're glued to scandal, this administration takes advantage and quietly rolls out a payout scheme that, honestly, in my opinion, leaves our warriors shortchanged. The so-called warrior dividend, this $1,776, a symbolic nod to America's founding year. Patriotic branding, sure, but let's be honest, it's a gesture. It's not even close to being a solution. Meanwhile, migrants and asylum seekers are receiving aid packages that can total up to $3,000. Humanitarian relief, they call it. But to the average soldier, it looks like a slap in the face. Why is symbolism valued more than substance? Why are our defenders constantly treated like props in a political play, and it's always the role that they're cast? The numbers don't lie. Priorities do. Epstein files resurface. Names of powerful people. There's a media frenzy. Social feeds explode. And in the shadows, we got policy shifts happening very quietly. It's really the oldest trick in the book. Flood the zone with scandal so that nobody notices the fine print. While you're looking one way, all the real moves happen the other. You know, we do a lot of our training in some of these military bases, and we have troops that live in crumbling barracks. Families struggle with rising costs. Veterans fight for health care, and yet housing funds are siphoned to cover a symbolic payout. At the same time, migrants receive more substantial aid. Ask yourself, whose needs are really being prioritized? Is this about patriotism? Or, as usual, is it just about politics? Kash Patel sat before Congress and claimed no one else was involved. No co-conspirators, just a lone act. But now the DOJ says there could be up to 10 co-conspirators, 10 names that this whole time have just been hidden in the shadows. So why wasn't Patel charged for lying under oath? Why is a man who misled Congress walking free while the rest of us would be in handcuffs? Let's be honest. It's silence, protection, cover. 10 co-conspirators that we know about. Who's been arrested? Who's been charged? No one. All we are seeing is management of a crime ring, and professional management at that. This is protection of the powerful. If this was you or me, we'd be done for, that's for sure. But it's not. These people live in a different class, and in that class, justice doesn't apply. The names we do know, Bill Gates, Kevin Spacey, Chris Rock, and there's others. Have any of them even been brought in for questioning? Not a single one. What we're seeing is pure containment, not accountability. Then there's the million documents they just dropped. Sounds like transparency, right? Wrong. No, that's a strategy. Corporations use that same strategy all the time. Watch The Devil We Know, the documentary about DuPont and Teflon. When a FOIA request hit DuPont, they didn't hand over clarity. They handed over chaos. They gave the attorneys basically a building full of paper stacked floor to ceiling. Good luck going through all of that. That's not disclosure. That's intentional drowning. Again, that's containment. Flood the zone, bury the truth. And what about the plea deal Epstein got in 2008? That was nothing except pure just being surgical and precise. Designed not to expose, but actually to protect. It shielded its staff, it protected the unnamed co-conspirators, and it just cuts the victims out entirely. That wasn't justice. That was choreography, played out beautifully. Sweetheart deals for the powerful, silence for the victims, containment for the public. And I'm sorry on this one, but having multiple passports That's not normal rich guy behavior. Does anybody think that is? Is it now, is it hard to get multiple passports? Not necessarily, but it's a little more difficult to get them all with different names on them. Epstein had passports from multiple countries under all different names. So tell me that doesn't scream old-fashioned, just government asset. And what's really frustrating is it seems that every time momentum builds, every time the public starts asking the right questions, what happens? There's another document dump, just another distraction. Let's be completely clear. This is intentional. They know that the longer the Epstein story drags out, the more time becomes a weapon against all those trying to find the truth. Attention dies, narratives fracture, accountability evaporates. Think back just a few months ago now. Elon Musk, when he was having a little feud with Trump, posted, "It's time to drop the big bomb. Trump is in the Epstein files. It's time to dump them. The truth will come out." How quickly do we forget that happened? I haven't. Musk is an elite. He knows things that we don't. And now Bill Clinton, of all people, is posting to release everything? Well, what world is the amount of twists and turns this is taking is just unbelievable. And it's important to remember, proximity matters. Being in the orbit of Epstein doesn't necessarily make you guilty, but it does demand investigation because this whole thing demands transparency and it demands accountability. And let's not forget, President Trump himself once called this whole thing a Democrat hoax, a hoax. Now suddenly it's front page news again. Convenient timing? Seems like it is. But here's the thing. For me, I'm like, which is it? Is it a hoax or is it the biggest scandal of our time? It really seems like the narrative can just shift depending on who's going to benefit. So look at this. The Epstein files, migrant payouts, military dividends, Cash Patel's testimony crumbles under DOJ revelations, multiple passports under different names, million document dumps, Elon Musk's warning, Bill Clinton's sudden call for transparency, and yet the timing of all of this, it just feels too neat and too convenient. Different stories, the same pattern, pure misdirection. And we got to ask, why the $1,700? Why not fix the barracks? Why not fund healthcare? Why not prioritize the defenders of this nation? Why $3,000 for migrants? Why more for those who broke the law than those who uphold it? Why 10 co-conspirators named, but no arrests? Why sweetheart deals instead of accountability? Why have multiple passports all under different names? Why containment instead of justice? Why Elon Musk's warning went completely ignored? Why is Bill Clinton suddenly calling for transparency? Why now? Timed with the Epstein file release. Who benefits from the distraction? This isn't about checks. It's about control. It's about narrative. It's about keeping you focused on scandal while policy shifts reshape the foundation beneath our feet. The administration calls it patriotism. The media calls it humanitarianism. But the truth, it always just looks like misdirection. It really looks like containment. It looks like time itself is being weaponized against accountability because they know that will work because they've done it before and it's always has the same result. So they know if they wait long enough, it'll pay out. If all of that doesn't make you question what's really going on, I don't know what will. Whose side is this administration really on? There's a lot to unpack here. There's been a lot that's happened in a short period of time. So I've just been kind of consumed running through all of these, not so much what ifs, but whys. So let me know your thoughts on any of this in the comments below. And with that, we'll see you in the next one. Be safe.